Hey everyone, welcome back. So this video, as you can tell by the title, is about how Hyde is animalistic in the novella Dr. Jekyll and Mr Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. If you go onto my social medias, I will be releasing and updating some quotes from several different texts just to help you guys out so you can have your own quote banks, because you're going to need to know quotes for your exams off the top of your head. So let's get started. So who is Mr. Hyde? So Hyde is the physical representation of all the evil thoughts and deeds of Dr. Jekyll. He exists because Jekyll has created a potion that was supposed to get rid of all his bad parts, but instead transformed him into someone else. Eventually, Hyde grows so powerful that he appears whenever Jekyll shows physical or moral weakness. He no longer needs the potion to appear. So a lot of people ask me, why don't people know it's the same person? Simple. He looks and acts completely differently. This is done deliberately by Stevenson to show the two sides of the human mind. A bit of context. So Victorian society had very strict expectations of how people should behave. Reputation and religion were the two biggest things people had to worry about during that era. Furthermore, people were not only worried about their behaviour, but they were also extremely judgmental of other people's. So because everybody was so worried about how they would be perceived and how they would see, they would do, act and say only certain things and hide the rest of it away, which is how Jekyll came up with the idea to have the potion and get rid of all his supposedly bad traits. Hyde as animalistic. So Enfield's description of Hyde in chapter 1 is the very beginning. So remember, we don't actually hear from Hyde at all throughout the entire novel. It's how people have perceived him and the way he is described. So one of the main quotes from chapter 1 is, "For the man trampled calmly over the child's body and left her screaming on the ground." Hyde's callous and inhumane behaviour towards the child was seen as a lack of basic human understanding. So if he's not human, he is by definition an animal. There's a lot of this language that's inferred throughout the novel, where by saying he's not something, he is something else. So you're going to have to use quite a bit of inference when reading the novel. Shrank back with a hissing intake of breath. The word hissing is an onomatopoeia and is also associated with snakes and makes him seem untrustworthy. This is going to be related to the Bible. Like I said, Victorian society was extremely religious. So the snake was the one who tempted Eve in the Garden of Eden and is therefore not to be trusted, just as Hyde should not be trusted. Stevenson's father was a priest, a minister in the church, and was extremely religious, and Stevenson was raised within the church, so there's going to be quite a few biblical references throughout the novel. Snarled aloud into a savage laugh. So the word snarled is an onomatopoeia that is normally associated with animals and is used to describe Hyde's laugh and his reactions to Utterson claiming they have common friends. So it's not very gentlemanly behaviour to laugh at somebody when they are trying to be friendly to you and say that they have people in common with you. So again, his lack of gentlemanly behaviour and this animalistic trait of snarling during his laugh is another indication of Hyde being shown as animalistic in the novel and not quite human. The man seems hardly human, something troglodytic. If someone is not seen as human, then by inference, they are an animal. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of times when they will say he is not something to say that he is the other thing. So troglodytic is a member of various peoples who lived and were reputed to live chiefly in caves. So these are prehistoric people with no rules and regulations in society and did not understand how people should have behaved and were expected to behave. By having him described in this way, they are trying to say that he doesn't understand what he should be doing or how he should be doing it, and therefore he is less than them. With ape-like fury, he was trampling his victim underfoot. So once again, Hyde is trampling someone under his feet. Normally, animals would trample things, for example, horses or cows or something, but it's not an action that is associated with humans. So the description of ape-like fury is not only animalistic, but it also refers to the theory of evolution. So, like I said, Victorian society was extremely religious. However, because of the publication of The Origin of Species by Charles Darwin in 1859, Stevenson was influenced by his writings, and that is why he has Jekyll as a scientist and Hyde is described as an ape. So during this time, people were finding it extremely difficult to reconcile this idea of people originating and evolving from apes and what they were taught in the Bible and have been taught for the last several thousand years. So this caused a lot of controversy with both the novel and with Stevenson. And it's very interesting that he has science versus religion throughout the novel, and constantly describes Hyde as animalistic and has animal traits in order to inference and refer to The Origin of the Species by Charles Darwin. So he had now seen the full deformity of the creature. The characters and Stevenson refused to acknowledge Hyde's humanity by calling him deformed and a creature. Again, this is alluding to his animalistic tendencies. If he's a creature, then he is not human. Therefore, again, he is animal. There was something abnormal and misbegotten in the very essence of the creature that faced me. Repeatedly referring to Hyde as a creature dehumanizes him. It takes away people's ability to see him as an actual person. We're never given the chance to actually see Hyde as a normal man because of all the descriptions we have from the various characters and the lack of first-person narrative from Hyde's perspective. So linguistic bias. This is used throughout the novel. So Hyde is repeatedly referred to as deformed and creature. This is an example of linguistic bias. Stevenson uses these words continuously to highlight the differences in Hyde in comparison to the gentleman of the novella. He wants the reader and the characters to always see Hyde as less than themselves, cleverly explaining away his murderous and villainous behaviors since he is abnormal. We are going to be influenced by the way the novel is written. Stevenson deliberately uses specific words, specific references for us to not like Hyde from the very beginning in chapter 1 from Enfield's description. This is done deliberately. Hyde is animalistic. So Hyde is described as animalistic in two ways. Firstly, by comparing his behaviors to animals, so snarls, hiss, and ape-like. Secondly, by saying he is not human and therefore must be animal, so creature and troglodytic. So you're going to need to use a lot of inference when reading in order to fully answer this theme. Things to remember. So make sure your quotes answer the question. I know you've got preferred quotes, everyone has, but unless they are connected to what you are asked, don't use them. Your quotes are there to back up your point. If the quote is not relevant to the theme that you have been asked, then there really is no point in using it. It's just a waste of time. Sorry. Familiarize yourself with relevant context. So the more you understand the why, the better you can explain the how. For example, with this theme, understanding Stevenson's background of his father being a minister and him being greatly influenced by Charles Darwin's theory of evolution and the origin of the species, you can see why he does and how he has Hyde described and referred to as an animal. So remember, you are the reader. If you find anything interesting, then go with your instinct and expand on it. Don't think what would other people enjoy or what would other people think. It doesn't matter. You are the reader. So what you find interesting or what you find relevant is correct. Don't underestimate yourself and don't second guess yourself. Go with what you want to write. So was this video useful? So follow me on my social medias, share, like and subscribe, and leave a comment if you have any questions or any requests. Otherwise, you can contact me on the social media accounts and I will respond to whoever is interested or whoever has any questions, no matter how small you think it is. And I'll see you next time.